This podcast is brought to you by the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania.
This Week in Small Business.
And as always, great to have back with us Gene Marks, founder of the Marks Group. Hi, Gene. How are you?
Hey, Dan. Great to be here.
So a lot of excitement with the latest jobs report, 850,000 people back into the workforce. But one of the things that was noted in a report that you touch on is the fact that small businesses are still having issues filling jobs.
Yeah, I mean, along with the great, the jobs report, and it is good that the claims themselves are going down, and obviously the level of unemployment is at least jobs lost is certainly less, so that's good news. But yeah, it remains to be a big problem among small businesses, Dan, is people finding, trying to find workers. Right now, there's between 8 and 9 million open jobs right now on the JOLTS, the job openings, metric that actually was just published this week as well. And these are skilled jobs that are out there, and a lot of these are business owners that I talk to. I mean, Dan, my clients that I talk to in the Philadelphia area and around the country, every single one of them, if you ask them what's their biggest issue right now, it's finding people. The National Federation of Independent Businesses came out with their jobs report last week and confirmed the same thing. Their membership is saying, we're trying to find people. We're trying to find people. It's the biggest issue that we have, and it's going to be a problem that's going to continue for the rest of the summer.
So it's still a search that they're in the midst of, which is obviously being complicated by a variety of different factors.
Yeah, it is. We've been through this before. Everybody knows about unemployment is encouraging some people to stay at home. Those benefits are going to run out after Labor Day. Half the states aren't offering them anyway. So I think that's going to work itself out. And again, I think people just need to get more comfortable returning to work, into the job from a health standpoint. And, I think we'll see, I think we're going to see a lot of improvement on that. Schools as well will hopefully be reopening for the most part around the country at full levels after Labor Day. So I am telling my clients, listen, as tough as it is right now, and I'm having the same issues finding people, just bear with it, because I think things will work itself out. The key is finding them. I just read today, I'm writing about this in Forbes, Dan, how TikTok is piloting a program for resumes. I mean, they have such a huge number of users on TikTok that are part of Generation Z, the younger group in their early 20s. And they're allowing them to post video resumes now. So if you're an employer looking for people, LinkedIn is a great place to go, obviously, Instagram, but also keep an eye on TikTok. There might be some good talent out there that you can find on that platform.
We know the hotel industry obviously took a big hit during the height of the pandemic, with nobody traveling, nobody looking at vacations. The good news is that the occupancy rates have been going up, and maybe even more so, business travel is coming back, at least to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I traveled through O'Hare just last week, Dan, and it was chock-a-block. I mean, it's busy. And, I've been going and speaking at conferences. I was at a conference in South Dakota, of all places. I was in another one in Orlando. People are, and the conferences are filled with people. Business travel is by all means is getting back. The hotel industry reported their occupancy levels. At the end of June, their occupancy levels were only off, about 30% compared to the same, levels of last year. And remember, those were like next to zero. And actually in 1 week in June, the very last week of June, it was only 0.5% lower than what it was in the same period in 2019, Dan. So hotels are showing, much, much higher spikes in occupancy. The airlines are very busy as well. Just good luck finding a rental car. I don't know if you tried that. But
and I think we forget, Gene, at times that obviously a significant portion of the hotel industry are the big named companies, but there is still a big chunk of this industry which are relatively small businesses, a hotel in a beach community or by a lake or whatever it might be that is owned by an individual, by a family, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, the family-owned hotels are a large part of the businesses of the hotel industry around the country, particularly in resort areas. These numbers don't even include Airbnb as part of those numbers, and that also I think is an interesting statistic, is their occupancy has been increasing significantly over the past few months. So yeah, a lot of small businesses own hotels, but I also thought it's just an indicator, Dan, for other small businesses that are traveling right now. If you're still hesitant to get back on the road, if you're not sure if you should go to your industry conference in the fall, I just want to tell you guys, the minute you get out of your office and hit an airport, you'll see people are out there and traveling now. I mean, it is really close to back to normal. So you should be making those plans and getting back on the road and seeing those customers.
All right. The manufacturing numbers out last week showing gains once again, but maybe even more importantly, there's a greater focus on the prices of lumber coming down. They still have a little bit of ways to go, but certainly it's much better, or it's getting better than it was a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, a couple comments on the manufacturing report. This is from the Institute of Supply Management, Dan, and they're really an association of purchasing managers in both manufacturing and service companies. And this association publishes a very closely watched metric of basically they ask their members, what are you buying and how much? And manufacturing levels, buying at the manufacturing level has been at the highest level since the early 1980s. In other words, orders are being placed. Manufacturers are busy around this country. It's slipped a tiny bit in this past month, but it's still at very historically high levels. That's a really great sign. The issue is they're having supply issues. One of the industries for small businesses that are really hard hit is the construction industry, and those that rely on that rely on lumber for their businesses. Even though orders are up, they've been hit some significant pricing issues. But there's good news. If you're if you're a small business and you're in the furniture industry, you're in the construction industry, and you've been paying a lot for lumber, which is really driving up inflation, those lumber prices have decreased significantly. And just to give you an example, the peak lumber price was up to as high as $1,733 per 1,000 board feet, and now it's down to $700 per 1,000 board feet. This is like an industry analysis. So the price of lumber is falling as supply is catching up, and I think that'll be good news for businesses in those industries.
One of the things you also recently wrote about, and I'd be interested, how different businesses are dealing with this. Are some of the issues around mental health, because we know that has been a concern during this time of the pandemic. And I think it's going to be an even greater concern for businesses as a whole in terms of how they are dealing with it to help their employees out.
I think it's a huge issue this year for businesses, both big and small. And, I wrote a piece in Entrepreneur just last week about the whole, Britney Spears thing and, how she wants her conservatorship, taken away. And I just wanted to remind my readers that, putting aside all of the media hype around Britney Spears, the whole conversation is about mental health. And she really did have some serious mental health issues years ago and seems to be, have overcome many of them, which is really good news. But it just draws attention to the awareness of mental health. And Dan, I mean, there is this big cultural war going on right now among businesses, big and small, about bringing their employees back to work. There are a lot of employees that would prefer to be working from home. There are a lot of employers who are saying they're not as productive and we want them back in the office. And one of the things we really have to be cognizant of is the mental health of our employees. This pandemic really scared the you-know-what out of a lot of people, particularly younger generation. Dan, I mean, my kids are in their 20s, and all their friends are just terrified by COVID. So now getting them back to work, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And, business owners tend to skew a little bit older, maybe come from a generation where this kind of thing wasn't as important, focusing on people's, mental situation. And I think, as a business owner, I think you really have to be prepared for that. You have to be patient. You might want to talk to your benefits provider and find out if there's any mental health benefits counseling that can be available, whatever you can do to help people with their transition back to work, it's not just going to benefit your employees, but certainly it'll benefit the productivity of your business.
How much are companies now looking at that as a component of the healthcare coverage that they provide?
So it really depends on who you talk to. The average, more than half of the small businesses in this country are over the age of 55. It was a new statistic from the SCORE and the Small Business Administration. Over 55 are running, more than half of the companies. And the reason why I say that, Dan, is because, people of that generation sometimes don't pay attention to that mental health stuff. It's a generational thing. So if you talk to older business owners, and by the way, I'm in that demographic, a lot of us are like, well, our employees will figure it out themselves. What's mental health? Yeah. It was never a thing for me when I was a kid. But that's not the issue now. And the younger business owners, I think, are more cognizant of the issue and making it more of a thing for their overall health benefits.
We're joined by Gene Marks, who is founder of the Marks Group. You also have done an article recently about hiring practices and what companies should or should not have in their jobs postings. Really, you're talking about getting rid of the jargon.
Yeah. I wrote this piece for The Guardian. It was based on a study that was doing. And let me just give you guys some heads up, okay? If you're using words like team player and self-starter and being proactive or taking it to the next level, you probably want to stop doing that. This study found that some of these job ads that were using some of this gobbledygook that they talked about. Here's a couple others. Ready? Window of opportunity. Make hay. Go viral. If you're including that kind of jargon in your job ads, you could be turning off potential applicants. People can see right through it.
Well, yeah, because you want to try and be as straightforward as you can towards a potential employee. You're basically, to a degree, even though the employee wants to work for you, you have to kind of set the tone for what the company is going to be like.
Yeah, you want to avoid that silly stuff because people are smarter than that. You want to be straight out, use plain language, have short sentences, be yourself while being professional. Try to avoid those words that you think are cool or hip are going to attract a certain demographic of people. People can, they know. People are smarter than that, and they can see right through it. Remember, we're all going to be getting back out there looking for employees, particularly after Labor Day, as a lot of people will be returning to the workforce. And our ads are a critical part of that process. So you don't want to be writing goofy stuff that, just because you're trying to impress. Be yourself and be plain. Project yourself as a company that is a good company to work for with, real people.
You've also touched on, once again, the issue of the minimum wage and the fact that there are people in Capitol Hill that support that idea, and there are some on Capitol Hill that do not, one being Rand Paul.
Yeah, listen, we live in such a partisan world, Dan. Everybody's fighting and yelling and screaming at each other, and Rand Paul is, he has some controversial points of view, but, I interviewed him for about a half an hour recently, and, the guy is an experienced senator, and he is the ranking member of the Senate Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. So, you have to listen to what he has to say because he has a point of view on the minimum wage that I think is very important. He does not support a national minimum wage. Now, I know a lot of people do, and there are a lot of studies that say that a $15 an hour minimum wage would provide more jobs or more consumer spending. But, Rand Paul's point of view is that you can't charge or force a business that's located in Alabama or, Kentucky, his home state, and force them to pay their people $15 an hour just as if they were operating in San Francisco or in New York. It's a big country. And his point of view is that minimum wage should be handled at the local level, where the local, politicians and leaders know their constituents. And I want to point that out that, as controversial as sometimes Rand Paul can be, his points of view does make sense. And I think we have to respect differing points of view on issues like the minimum wage and other things.
You also have touched on the issues around inflation and how small business is being impacted by this. Yeah,
I'm gonna write about that again actually next week in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Listen, everybody is facing price increases right now. So I'm seeing that with everyone that I talk to. So if you're a business owner, you're seeing it, particularly if you've got inventory. And I just wanted to just give you a couple pieces of advice. Let me tell you what I'm seeing among my client base, Dan, right? When people are facing price increases, they're doing three things. Number one is they're using the opportunity to increase prices for their customers. That's an opportunity they haven't had in a long period of time, and the environment is right to do that. So consider that. Number two is they are trying to nail down whatever long-term contracts they have in. So, the supply agreements, lease agreements, refinancing short-term debt into longer-term debt, employment agreements. When you lock down long-term contracts, you fix your pricing. And in an inflationary environment, it gives you less headaches to worry about. So if you've got any long-term contracts, try and negotiate them so that you can, take that surprise out. And finally, a lot of business owners I see, and a lot of my own clients, they're buying right now. I mean, they're not buying GameStop or crypto. They're buying inventory for their businesses, or they're stowing money away to hire good people who will provide more productivity for their businesses. But they're investing in what they know the best. And it's not stocks and bonds. It's stuff for their own company because they know prices are going to go up. So buy now, low, and sell later at a higher.
Gene, great to talk with you again. Thanks very much for your time.
Dan, great talking with you. Take care.
You got it. Gene Marks, founder of the Marks Group.
To keep engaged with Wharton Business Daily and other Wharton School shows, visit businessradio.wharton.upenn.edu.